things. Right, hang on, let's get that on there. So for the new people, I'm not holding a seance. There will possibly people online that I'll talk to that you can't see or hear. So I might just randomly have a conversation to myself, but it's not. Well, it might be to myself. That's a good excuse, isn't it, really? It's a good reason. Right, now, let me get my paints out. Right, do you want to draw, freehand, or trace? What are you feeling like this afternoon? Because I don't know if you can see that. My torch show it up.
You don't really stretch anything too complex.
No, there's nothing really complicated, but it just depends how. Can you see? If I just hover my torch over, I've just done the main leaves that stick out and the flowers. How do you feel? Confident to do it freehand, or do you want to trace? You want to trace? You're going to trace. Do you want to trace? Do you want to trace or freehand? Trained my back earlier. Are you freehanding? Oh, you already started.
I may just go into it. Paint fresh.
Oh, Daniel.
Be dangerous.
Right, so that goes down there, and then that goes on top, like carbon paper, but it's graphite.
Thank you.
That's the dark side down there. Level that one up, and then just use your pencil, press down hard over the main bits, and I'll go and see if anybody is downstairs. Because if not, you can go on the back row.
I'm actually quite fine.
Oh, what are you finding?
Yeah.
I like that corner. It's kind of a little cosy corner. I like it. Excellent. Right, will you want to trace or
No,
freehand? Excellent. So I'm guessing no Linda. She said she was going to be back after Cropredy, but this might be two after Cropredy because it only finished the other day. I don't even need to go to Cropredy. I just sit in my house and it just comes down the chimney. It's very loud.
How much does it dislodge?
I had my chimneys cleaned last year. First time in 10 years. The chimney sweep was not very impressed. Right, let's get some bird song on to soothe you. So all I've drawn is... Hiya, Rosemary. Is the main leaves and flowers, not grasses. I'm going to put the torch on so you can kind of see roughly. So anything that's floral or buds, you'll be able to see yours really quite clearly. It shows up almost pale grey white. So any interesting leaves or petals, or you could just wing it. It's up to you.
Why not be an Asian occurrence?
Yeah. Why not indeed?
If my home goes muddy brown, I'll blame my teacher.
Fine.
You expect me to take more offence to that?
Nope.
Too used to me now.
I just don't listen, Daniel.
Sorry, what's that?
Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. So I'll give you about 10-15 minutes to sketch it roughly, but because it's gouache, you'll be alright anyway. I've squeezed you out a yellow that isn't in your set that you'll find useful. So,
Is that new gamboge?
well, it's kind of cadmium yellowish because in the sets you only get lemon and yellow ochre, but technically you could mix yellow ochre and lemon together and get something similar. But I thought I'd be nice today since we had a few beginners. Marnie, have you ever done watercolour before? Gouache before? No. Oh.
Should I use scared?
No. Never scared.
Be afraid.
we call it nervous sighted. When you're nervous and excited at the same time. So you can be nervous sighted but not scared. Petrified. You'll find this really because have you done acrylics? Yes.
Yeah.
And you've done oils.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you done watercolour?
No.
No. Okay.
This is a mix between.
Watercolour and acrylic. Yeah. I love it. I absolutely love it. We did a portrait last time. I can't believe that was 4 weeks ago.
I missed it.
Ah, who was here then, Pam? Who else? Was there anyone else in the room? Oh, Sarah. Yes, from Italy.
Do you
Um,
bring it on photo or?
No, we did. What was his name? Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman. He did.
Professor Snape.
Professor Snape.
Oh, he's one of my favourites.
Yeah. So that was quite fun to do.
Got to do Rick Mel next time.
Yeah, I will have to do Rick Mail next time. I've bashed my camera. Hang on. Let's straighten it up a bit. There we go. Right. I think you'll enjoy it. I do. So once you've done a bit of a drawing, you can squeeze your colours out round about the same size as the lump I've already put on your tile.
Right.
Roughly.
So, on the set they say gouache, poster,
Tempera.
tempera, right?
Yeah.
So the Yanks talk about a lot of poster colour on YouTube. So is that just they're talking about gouache?
Cheaper gouache.
No. Not
Yeah,
the poster
because
colour
like the
you get
kids,
for our toddlers.
the kids, you know, at primary school now, because they've done away with powder paint, they use the big squeezy bottles, like Neil Buchanan used to use. That's often called tempera paint because it is opaque. Because gouache doesn't actually mean anything in French. It has no meaning. I don't know from what Jackie told me. He's French, so it's just like it's just a French sound. So yeah, I mean originally white gouache was called body colour back in the 1600s. So it wasn't all gouache. And then you've got poster colour, which has been around a lot longer. Shall I nick that?
Thank you.
And then, I don't know, in the 60s, when they started making coloured gouache, I think that's when they called it gouache. But then you can still get poster colour, and tempera colour. It's kind of an all-rounder, because if you think egg tempera is a different thing, because that's opaque, but that's pigment mixed with egg yolk. But I think you can have tempera as just meaning an opaque paint. I'll have to look what that. Let me have a look what that means. That's Italian, isn't it? Tempera. I would imagine that's Italian.
So gouache is quite similar to poster colour.
Yes, but more refined.
So I do not have an ultramarine in this set with the Prussian work.
Prussian will be fine. That's why I'm giving you the two yellows, because you haven't got an ultramarine, but you'll be fine with the cadmium yellow. With that, yeah. So Prussian blue will be your best one.
Do like a bit of Prussian.
Right. So according to the Tate, tempera is the technique of painting with pigments bound in a water-soluble emulsion. So basically, watercolour is a tempera, acrylic is a tempera, and gouache is a tempera. So if it's a water-soluble emulsion, or in an oil in water emulsion, so I dare say water-soluble oils is also a tempera. So that's kind of like the blanket term, tempera. So you've got egg tempera, or gouache, or poster colour.
He's in City for a while.
And that you've got a gunk out of that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've got a
that's a new can. That is. So they're probably on the shelf for a month.
It's alright.
I should
Do
have.
I squeeze all the colour out?
You just want about the same sort of size lump as you've got of the yellow.
All of the colour.
Hang on, let's see. What you got the white there?
Yeah.
You want that one? Prussian. Brown. Black. There's no red, is there today? No red.
No red today.
Yeah.
You're using the fancy
now we're going to be making the green. So the Prussian blue will be the good blue.
So we're not
to
use
use.
Viridian.
No.
I see you went to the trouble of including it in the set.
I didn't make the set. You know how much I loathe Viridian with my whole soul.
And that's why I have so much fun with it.
It upsets me, doesn't it? Right, I'm just going to give myself a little bit of white. So we're on black watercolour paper today. Have you squeezed some out? I wouldn't put it past you. You put Viridian out.
Sorry,
You put Viridian out on your tile.
not yet.
Not yet. Daniel.
What's the difference between black paper and white paper?
Well, for this, it just, because it's quite, you know, if you look at the photograph and sort of squint at it, there's a lot of darks in there, yeah? So it just saves you putting the darks in, because you can, in watercolour you'd have to do it all on white paper because it's transparent, and the problem with that is, because watercolour is transparent, you have to work on white, and you'd have to put your darks in last in watercolour. So you'd have to do all your yellows, then your greens, then your darks, which is really quite annoying, would you say, Dan?
Sorry.
A bit annoying working in watercolour to do something like this, to put
Working
all the
backwards,
yeah,
start to light. Yeah,
Yeah.
impossible.
yeah, because you'd have to paint around every blade of grass. So working on black, which I work on black canvas for acrylic sometimes and for oils, it just saves a lot of hassle because it's already there. So you just sort of soften the colour into the dark, so it feels like it's looming out, which I like. So I'm guessing no Linda. because it's coming up to quarter past, so she'd have been here by now. Let me just check she's not messaged.
So because I'm a bit behind it, so it's the
The
brownie one?
you want a black and a brown, a white, a lemon, and a Prussian blue, which is that. The blue and the black might look very similar. Bum, 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 bum. So yes, we'll be mixing greens, because I like mixing greens. It's a good skill to have. Were you pleased with your horse painting?
I was, yeah.
Good.
I was very pleased.
Thrown in at the deep end. We did in the watercolour class. Your first watercolour, wasn't it, Molly? And we were doing a horse with a haymaker and a farmer on the back of the haymaker in watercolour. But you did admirably well.
We all did.
Everybody did a good job. It was such a lovely painting, though, and a lovely photo. We did a grey squirrel yesterday's class. I basically just lived here all week this week. Right. Are we all drawn-ish? Ish. I know you're winging it, Dan. Have you? Yeah. Impressive.
You're right. Yeah.
Impressive then. So, if you want to make gouache less opaque, so opaque means it blocks out light, it blocks out whatever's underneath. If you want to make it less opaque, you add more water to it. So, if you want the black to show up, you use diluted colours, and it shows through in a really nice way. But the thing to remember with gouache is it's a bit like emulsion paint in that when it dries flat and slightly darker. You know, when you do the walls and you think, oh, that's a nice colour, and then as it dries it's a different colour. It's a bit like that with gouache. So the colour that's on your palette will not be the colour that you see. You'll get a darker version, but that's okay because we can lighten it afterwards. So we're going to do a few random background leaves to start with. I'll use, just to get us going, I think the smaller of the round brushes. There's 2 round brushes and we've got 2 flat brushes today. The smaller of the round. It might say number 4 on it, or it might have worn off. And we'll start with the yellow that I squeezed out for you and your blue. And you want to mix quite a nice consistency, fairly runny. Because we want this to sort of loom out of the dark. If it feels a bit punchy, add a tiny bit of brown in there.
So that mushy pea green.
Mushy pea, yeah, a dark mushy pea green, I suppose. Let me turn my lamp.
Chip shop mushy green.
Yeah. So these are all the ones that are hiding underneath it. There's a lot of layers in this. So we'll be quite light. So this is, what we're going to do is not what we've drawn. These are additional to what we've drawn. And what's cool about this is you can literally just use your leaves, your brush, as a leaf shape. Now, it will go dark and then it might show up again. I've got this very pale and very runny. And you can even, actually, if you paint a thin line and then you can print with your brush. I think I need to make more paint because it's not going to show up. I can see it, but you need to see it. I've got too much water on there. So these are all leaves that I have not drawn. That's showing up more now. It will dry darker. And you can be quite random with this. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. You could use your small brush or your big round brush just to do little clusters of leaves. Press down harder or lighter. So just have a bit of fun, because this is all background layering. It works quite nicely just to have a bit of a play. You can do long thin strokes like grass. So just remember that these are underneath. These are not really going to be that visible. And as it dries, you'll know if your green's too sludgy or too green. If it's quite vibrant, add just a tiny bit of brown, and that will make a massive difference. So this is a really good lesson for practicing your brush shapes and control. Lots of random leaf shapes. And if you do a few and then look at it and think, oh, that's standing out too much, just add more water to the next lot and that'll disappear into the black. So this is kind of more, it's a fun lesson to do actually. But I took this photo and I can't for the life of me, I was trying to remember where on earth I was when I took this. I was in some sort of field or forest. Maybe I was in a forest.
One of those nights where you woke up the next morning and that random field was at back.
Possibly. I'm guessing it was when I was in some bluebell woods, because that's the only time I'm often in a wood, is when I'm taking photos of bluebells for you lot. I went to a new bluebell wood this year that I'd not been to, fairly locally, because I normally go to Badby, but this one's the other side of Badby, and I can't remember what that's called either. I'm being really helpful tonight, aren't I?
Is it supposed to dry it out white?
It dries lighter.
Like really white?
See, that's good. Yeah, that's what you want. That is what you want. I promise. We're being subtle today, I think. Subtle to start with.
No wonder I'm struggling.
Hmm?
No wonder I'm struggling.
I know. We've got to be really... because we're going to build up the layers, you see. So just play around with leaves. So these are all bits that we haven't drawn. And if you want bigger leaf shapes, you can either wiggle with your brush or just use the bigger brush. I mean, these are creative lessons. I'm not going to tell you off for being creative. If you think, nah, I don't want to use that brush, I want to use a different brush. So I'm deliberately letting my paint run out before I remix, so I get a lot more layers on here. But we're keeping with a duller colour.
Sorry.
That's alright.
I think the last time I sat here was when we did the acrylic paint.
How long ago was that?
That was a few years ago now.
What, pandemic? Pre-pandemic?
Pre-pandemic, yeah.
Oh, well, that's a nice change of scenery. The photocopy would have been there then. Yeah, because you're normally back row, aren't you? You'll be surprised how quickly you can fill up your paper just with random leaf shapes and grasses. But it should start to feel like things are looming a little bit. Because basically what we'll be doing is just getting more and more opaque. With each layer. And you want to keep some of the dark paper showing through, because that's the whole point of using the dark paper. So let the brush do all the work for you. Yeah. I was concerned about how this was going to look on the camera, because the camera tends to show up the white chalkiness more than it actually is in real life. But actually today, it seems to be showing what I see. But it's interesting to sort of play around with this and just let some of it dry so you can really understand how the gouache works. But we're going to do lighter leaves and things, and the flowers, of course. You know what, there ought to be a little bit of red on this in your thing, because those leaves at the top right, they've got like a red outline, haven't they? So maybe you'll want what reds have you got down in that set?
Good question.
Vermilion?
Vermilion and crimson.
I go vermilion
Orange.
or cad red. I'm just thinking ahead. So next week then, that must be, is it watercolour pencil week?
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a sunset and a wintry tree. And then we're off for the bank holiday,
Yeah, they are.
which I will need. Because I'm gigging up in Metheringham on the Sunday of that bank holiday weekend.
Well,
Never even heard of Metheringham until I got asked to go up there. Is it Lincolnshire?
sorry?
Lincolnshire, yes, Metheringham.
Lincolnshire.
How's it going? You're all very quiet this evening.
My green seems to be drying quite luminous, which is a bit very good.
Add a bit more water to it. Make it a little bit watery. So the black shows up.
The ethereal gouache.
Well, it could. I mean, depending on the lot. I mean, this was... The sun's really hitting this in the photograph in places, so you've got some very bright areas. It reminded me of a painting by... and I remembered his name before you all came. Dürer, Albrecht Dürer. He did the most detailed lump of grass and flowers. But he actually dug out the lump of grass and flowers and stuck it in his studio so he could paint it from still life. Obviously, it's pre-photography. See if I can find it. But yeah, very attention to detail. You know, it's amazing.
To keep that alive for however long the painting lasts for.
Yeah.
Bit much. Couldn't just whip out his smartphone.
I know.
Wasn't thinking. They've had the Apple -0.
Yeah. See, this is it. This is the painting.
Oh, well, that's lovely.
That's gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah, very nice.
So, it reminded me of that a little bit. And it's just called Clump of Grass, I think, or something. Or Great Piece of Turf. Or something, or The Large Piece of Turf. Said exactly what it was. Painted in 1503. So, clearly before photography.
I want a culture jam and put little notes. Toy soldiers in there.
Ah,
Turf war.
that'd be cool. The little green ones would
Yeah,
work.
little green ones, yeah.
Yeah. That'll work. Thank you, Rosemary. I've actually started and almost finished next year's classes, January to June,
Ah,
because we launched them in September. And on Friday, I said to Jackie, "Oh, it's September soon. It's halfway through August, so I need to get a wriggle on." I do a little bit throughout the year, and then really have to force myself. So the only I've printed some off, but the only reason I'm not giving them out yet is because we've only just ordered a 2024 diary, and I need to check that my dates are all actually right. Usually there's at least a few that are wrong. but we're trying to cut down on costs because these booklets that we pull out every year, because we print out, I don't know, a couple of thousand of these booklets a year with our classes in. So we've gone back to a single I'll show you a single A4 paper. You can read it, it's fine, but I've colour coordinated the days and things, so. And you can keep it in your pocket a bit better. So that's what it will look like. I don't think there's any huge changes apart from the only Saturday classes I'll be doing is the calligraphy, and the acrylics in the afternoons is going back to 2 fortnightly rather than weekly, because that frees me up a little bit, because they've not been anywhere near as busy as they were pre-pandemic. We were getting like 9-10 per lesson pre-pandemic, and we struggle to get 3 now. So it frees me up, because I used to, on some Tuesday mornings, I'd sing in care homes, and I haven't been able to do that because some of them don't do weekends, you see, for entertainment. And if I've got a 2 o'clock class and I'm singing until 12, half 12, I'm not going to get here, get sorted, have lunch, clear the classroom and all of that. So it'll be good. What's lunch? I bet you have a lunch break, Daniel. I don't.
Not on my OT days.
Do you not?
No. But I'll be sat on my desk and I'll have my lunch and there, and next thing you know I get shoulder tapped. My printer's not working.
Oh.
Have you tried turning it off and on again? Yes. I go in there, turn it off and on again,
It works. It's always a way.
And they start to think I'm some sort of wizard.
I mean, I do eat lunch, but I don't have a lunch break. Working for yourself, that does not happen. I'm not after sympathy, so don't worry. So you're having a nice summer holiday, Marnie?
I am, yeah. I've not really done very much, to be honest. Which
Well,
is
that's
quite
good.
nice.
Have you not had to go back into school or
I
anything?
did the first week, but not since. They're very good at our school. They lock it up.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, they don't encourage us to go in when we're not expected to.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Because even as a TA, I'd go in and do labels and stuff during the summer holidays.
Yeah. She's very much look after yourself.
Because which one are you at?
Dashwood.
Dashwood.
Yeah, which is good. Because you do, yeah, you could spend forever.
Oh, well, you're never finishing, are you, really? I mean, my ex-wife, she was in primary education. I'd stopped being a TA and I'd got this place then, but, you know, she'd be up with the larks, and then she wouldn't get home till 6, and then there's all the marking, and if there's a book trawl or something else, and then occasionally if there was a book trawl announced that day for the following day, she'd pull an all-nighter.
Just ridiculous. The workload is.
I do feel people do not really know what goes on in a school and how hard it is for teachers. It's unless you've worked in that environment, and they think, oh, inset, you just doss around on an inset day. I wish. I've had some boring insets where I'd have longed to have labelled some drawers or something.
Some silly courses now.
It is. Or it's something where the head will go, right, so you know what we taught you last year, we're not doing that now, we're going to do this now, and we're starting on Tuesday.
We change this and we do this and we
Yeah.
do this. And I was wrong.
I was speaking to a modern languages teacher for high school, and apparently now they're not allowed to differentiate their lessons. They've gone back to almost do it by rote, and every lesson follows the same formula, and I think, oh, that kills creativity.
It does.
Right, Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch yellows to the lemony yellow, and it'll start getting a little bit brighter, and it can be less watery, so you want it to come out. I'm going to start with grass blades to start and just see. So it's going to look, don't forget it dries a bit darker, so don't panic. Hopefully it dries darker.
So just yellow.
Lemon yellow with ultramarine. So it's a really vibrant mushy pea colour.
Ultramarine is the blue.
The blue, yeah. So I have drawn leaves, but I can't actually see where I've drawn them now.
That's the thing, isn't it? You can remove where the drawing is. Are you following lines or just
Making them up.
making them?
I'm kind of looking at where they are in the picture, but they're actually in every direction, aren't they, in the photograph? So it's a really good one to just play with today. It's going to look great no matter what you do.
Ah.
You will. I can feel it. It's going to be amazing.
See that every course.
And I'm never wrong. They're always brilliant. Mine are, anyway.
But one day. We'll take 11
I might do a few leaves in this as well.
Just add a few leaves, is it?
Just add. No, we're not being a just adder, are we? We don't do that here. I might use the smaller flat one, damp, so I can kind of soften that green stem into the dark, just with a bit of water. Because what's really cool about gouache is you can re-wet it. So if some of the stems that I've just like plonked on, I can re-wet and let the dark colour will shine through once it dries. There's a lot of trust having to go on with this today. I'm aware of that because Pam, even though you've done gouache, I don't think we've done it like this before. So I think Daniel, you're the only one that will know that you've got to trust the process and trust me. Have some thicker bits of grass there. And this is quite fun to do because you can create your grass by just adding more or less pressure with your brush. But building the colours up is just so wonderful. So it's why I use it for pet portraits, I think, because you really can build it up. So this is where it's okay to go over the colour, the leaves that we've just spent ages doing. I mean, the one thing that you'll realise is that these classes, the time, we're in a different world here, and it's already, we've already been here 45 minutes. I'm always shocked. 25 years I've been teaching, and obviously I started when I was 5. The time just flies. The Crooked House fire, which is from my neck of the woods, even made the New York Times.
Really?
Yeah, it's gone global. Everybody thinks how dodgy it is, 'cause it is. It was a lovely little quirky place.
What happened?
The pub got took over. It's a very ancient landmark in the Black Country, and it's a pub that was built in the 1700s. It was a building, a farm, I think, originally, and there's a lot of mining underneath, so it subsided massively, and it was propped up, and then it was turned into a pub, and nothing is straight. So you sit at a table or you stand at the bar that you think is straight, and you can roll a beer glass, and it goes uphill even though it's flat.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, but some people took over. It's down a little lane in near Himley, which is towards Wolverhampton, Himley Hall, and it's lovely actually. There is a waste tip behind it, but you can't see that or anything. And it got took over recently, and it's emerging that they are in waste deposits, and I think they wanted the pub down so they could turn that into a tip. So it accidentally burnt down to the ground on last Saturday on the 5th, and then while there's a police investigation into that, by Monday it had been bulldozed down. But also there were rumours that along the little lane there were mounds of dirt, so the fire brigade couldn't get down there to sort the fire out.
So you think someone was arsing around?
They were, absolutely. So yes, Black Country folk are not happy. We want answers. And it'd be nice. I think the mayor wants it built brick by brick again, which is not easily done with a house that's naturally subsided.
That's quite valuable.
But what could happen, I suppose, is the Black Country Museum could take it on and rebuild it as at the museum. That's possible. But apparently some of the bricks have gone missing because locals have taken them for mementos.
I was listening to an interview on the radio about it, and the guy was saying how it's part of the community, how much they loved it, and having a petition, and then whoever was, I think it might have been the guy at 12.
Right. Oh,
Anyway, the guy that does talk show at 12 o'clock on Radio 2.
yeah,
And he asked them how many times he actually went to the pub,
yeah.
and it wasn't very many. So it's not really one of those places you can go very often. And I thought, yeah.
No, I mean that is the case. I mean the pub wasn't doing very well, but then like so many, I can't say I don't live there anymore. But I think in my 20s I only went a couple of times. But I think it's just that landmark. Everybody knew of the Crooked House. How's it going, Dan? What? I'm going to do those nettly leaves here, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add... Oh, did you, Rosemary? You went to the pub from down here? It's a lovely place. Mind you, Himley's lovely, with Himley Hall, and it's got a little model village. Really great place. So I'm adding a bit of white to the lemon and ultramarine, the lemon and the blue mix. And that white makes it paler and a little bit more opaque. And I'm going to paint that serrate. I'm sure it is a nettle. It looks like a nettle. I'm going to paint the outside edge on this side. and then use a clean damp brush, the small flat one, to soften it in towards the base of the leaf, so it gets naturally darker by the black paper. I think a lot of places that close end up with people being so sad that it's gone, yet not realising that it may not have gone if they'd have supported it. We had in the high street where CEX is now, that was a sort of stationery shop not long after I opened, and that closed down. And I knew the manageress fairly well. We used to chat while she was having a cigarette break up in the passageway, because my shop was in Church Lane back then. And she said to me, on the day of closing, the queue was twice round the shop and all the way up to the butcher's. And she said if they'd all come to me while we were open, bye, see you tomorrow, bye. If they all came to me while we were open, we wouldn't be closing down now.
That's like my friend. My friend had the shop next door, Kendall's.
Oh, yes, Julie.
Yeah, and on the day they had the closing down sale, they had a queue outside.
It's sad. It's really sad. I struggled in the recession, because I had a 3-storey shop in Church Lane, and I was getting to the point where I couldn't really afford to restock the shop, you know, because a shop my size, even the size it is now, I've got about 40 grand's worth of stock in there that I've had to fork out of my own money, kind of thing. And so during the recession, I was struggling to pay. I hadn't paid myself for months. I was struggling to pay staff. I was struggling to stock the shop. And someone actually came in and they said to me, oh, let me know when you're closing down and have a sale, because I need to stock up on a few things. And that, for me, was a catalyst that no matter what happens in my business, I will never have a closing down sale. I will just close the door, and I'll either sell it on eBay, use it myself, or give it to a school. I will not have people picking over my corpse. I will not do it. I just thought, how rude. I thought more than that, but I think we'll say how rude, and yeah. But it is the way people think, unfortunately.
Next time they put cereal, I hope they leave it too long and it loses its crunchy consistency.
Oh, but I like soggy cornflakes. That's my favourite stuff. I hate crunchy. Even my crunchy nut cornflakes. I in the winter I put milk on and shove it in the microwave so they go soggy.
But then it's not crunchy nut, is it?
No, well, no, I like soggy.
So you
I'm the same with Yorkshire puddings. Love a soggy bottom. Soggy pastry on pies. Love that.
depends on the pie.
Or any pie. Soggy. Coke
If
it.
it's a Scotch pie, it's got to be crisp.
Oh, you don't know? I'm not into crisp pies. I like it soggy, not crisps. Not made out of crisps.
Well, you've got to make a new recipe there, you know.
That's true. Rosemary said if you have a closing down sale, double all the prices for the sale. No, I'll never have one. I'll never have one, because you know all the stuff we sell. If I ever got, and I'm not planning on going anywhere. If I ever got to the point where I couldn't afford to stay, the classes would still go ahead, so I'd just keep all the stuff. Because I've heard there's not much in Wilkinson's or Wilco's now, because they're having a sale, which is sad. But I tend to not go into shops when they're having a closing down sale, because I feel bad. If I've not used them
Yeah.
while they were fine, I won't shop in them.
I can't cope with the minutes.
No. No, I'm not. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Got 25 years before I can retire.
Trust me,
I'm not.
25 years, it'll be 30.
Well, I don't ever think I'll be able to afford to. I've got no savings. I don't own a home. I've got no pension plan.
I was just talking about greedy government.
Well, yeah, well, and the retirement age will probably not exist. But to be honest, I think as long as I've got my eyes and my hands, I can do what I do forever, really, can't I? Which I'm quite lucky at. That I can always paint.
Now you said that, ensure your eyes and hands.
Yeah, insure them, absolutely. Always nearly time for me to put the kettle on. Let's have a look. I was just going to say, Pam, that's just like the photograph when I was looking at the photograph. That's perfect. That's nice. How are you finding it? You enjoying it?
I am, thank you.
Yeah. It's very absorbing, isn't it? You can
Yes.
just switch your mind off. A bit like writing,
Yes.
except messier. Lovely. It's nice that done. Yeah. Right, let's get that
Look at
kettle on. What's that? What you say?
We'll get that.
We'll get there. We will. Power to the people. I think I'm the only one in the building now. But what I do like about gouache is that you can really move it around. I think that's something special. The one leaf I'm a bit concerned about is the one on the top left, the wiggly one. I'll do that in the same colour. So that's the lemon, the blue, and a bit of white. But actually what I might do is put less white in and a bit more water and just do the wiggly bits and then do some highlights on top. So let's wiggle. Be a little bit messy to start with, and then I can do some lighter lines afterwards. My uncle's just tried ringing me. I don't know why. It never rings me. So I'm adding a bit of white to that green to... Ooh.
Sorry, I put myself in the pain.
Do you need some wet wipes, Daniel? Hang on, let's get some wet wipes. Thank you. So you know this week's not body painting, yeah?
Well, when are you doing a class on that? Let's go. Get a big bit of paper on the wall. Paint yourself at it. Yeah, let's go.
No, Daniel. I'm going to leave these here just in case. Right. Who's for tea and who's for coffee? Tea. Right, I'm going to have to do a hands up because I can't remember. Let me do a little tally. Right, who's tea? 1, 2. And so that's 4 coffees. 4 coffees. You're alright, okay, so 3 coffees. And me.
Where the paint and the balloon hanging out on the little tray and you throw it down.
That is quite fun to do. I've never done that, but that would be quite fun, I think. But a bit messy. Maybe I wouldn't be any good at that. Who's controlling too much? purity. Put that all into your water jar. Crack the biscuits open in a sec. Downhill. Biscuit.
Got the jammies on it.
Like a biscuit, Marley.
Thank you very much.
Alright. Do you want a biscuit? Al? Oh, right. So, what I like about gouache is that my tile is dried, but I can just add a bit of water and it comes back. Whereas in something like acrylics, that won't happen at all. So I'm just doing a little white edge around some of these. Yeah. But I'm not doing a point. I might do those big leaves with the red tips next while I'm at the top, and then there's the other leaves at the bottom, and then we can do some flowers. So same rules apply. Where you want the leaf to melt into the leaf behind, or in front rather, you do the colour, leave a gap, and then clean damp brush to soften.
Was that the bright yellow?
Yeah, yeah, it's the lemon yellow with the blue, and I've added a bit of white still, so it makes it more opaque. the thing to remember with this is not to be stingy. Because what I tend to do is, if I think, oh, I've only got a couple of leaves to go, I'll just keep adding more water. But actually that will just make it more transparent. So if you want it opaque, you need to make more paint. Just trying this outline, I've had to add a little bit of white to the red, so it makes it more opaque and just softens it a little. And I'm just doing a little, almost like a perforated line. It's alright, isn't it? Starting to build. It will make a massive difference once the flowers go on. And the little buds and things. A lot of the leaves look like they've got red tins around them, but I don't They can't all have, surely.
The red leaf, do you still stick with yellow, lemon yellow, or cadmium?
This one, lemon. Yeah.
And lots of yellow.
Quite a lot of yellow and a little bit of white. Just helps it make it a little bit more opaque. So we've just got those bigger leaves at the bottom to do, and then the flowers. And all the leaves that we're going to be doing are lemon yellow, ultramarine, and then just add more yellow and white if you want it to stand out more. More water if you want it to sink in. Some of them you won't know if you need to brighten them up or not until after they've dried, because they will change. I just love how gouache can keep blending. That's why we're using watercolour paper today, because it's really heavy weight. So it will take a bit of abuse with water.
Or is this that paint on stuff?
This is Van Gogh watercolour paper. It's 300 GSM stuff.
That's the point. I'm looking for a 300 GSM mixed media sketchbook. Does such a thing exist? Not spiral bound.
Not spiral bound.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not, to be honest,
Feeling.
because that heavy weight won't bend. You can't really bind 300 GSM. You would need to be bound with string and all sorts of stuff. So you may be able to get it, but it's not mainstream. The 300 GSM watercolor books that we sell are, if you want it as a book, not a pad to tear off, they're all spiral bound. Because of how heavy the paper is. It's almost like card, isn't it?
Shame.
And the ones in the pads, obviously in pad form, if you bend it back, they'll just pop out. So the last half an hour will change massively.
Do the red leaf?
So you want a bit of vermilion from there. You don't need much of it, and a tiny weeny bit of white, just to stop it from being so vibrant. Is that one or the next one? Next one, that's the one. Just a tiny bit of that with a little bit of white for the edges. These all look really fantastic, by the way. I can see them all upside down. I don't know what they look like right way up, but upside down they look really good. And you have to keep telling yourself, this is only a 2-hour class. You know, you achieve a lot in 2 hours. Exactly. Don't beat yourself up over it if it's not how you think it should be in your head.
I'm having to paint blinds now.
Hmm?
I'm having to paint blinds now.
Oh yeah, have you got
Glasses are too strong.
Oh no. You might make purchases. Yeah. No, all of those flowers are cadmium yellow based, aren't they, really? And either the really open one at the top looks like it's got whiter outer petals and a yellow centre. Oh, we're in the final half hour. No pressure. No pressure. Hey Pam, what are we doing on Thursday? I can't remember.
So, your flowers?
Is it? Oh no, that's the week after. Edgecut, we're doing a church. Edgecut Church.
Last time, so.
Are you sad about that? No.
No, it looked a challenge.
Yes. Well, I was going to try and find something different, but I thought, no, actually, I'm going to stick to that one because it'll be an interesting thing that we've not done before.
Yeah.
And then you're back for flowers.
I'm back for flowers. Can we not swap? As I say, it means leaving half an hour early and miss half.
Yeah, no. And your mind won't be on it anyway because you'll be constantly looking at the time thinking, oh, I'm going to have to go, I'm going to have to go.
Yeah.
So you won't get the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. You won't get the best out of it. Well, why not? So we're going to be. I'm going to have to clean my yellow because my yellow's gone a bit green. Now for the ones where they sort of disappear, the little bud things that I'm sure I've drawn. I'm just going to do them quite watery in layers because I can add stronger. I'm still using. Do you know what? I've only used this brush for the whole picture so far. So these are very subtle and it's going to make them feel like they're sort of disappearing because they're not very opaque. But with a bit more yellow and a little bit of white, not too much, it means you can actually put the other petals in front. So again, let the brush do the work. And then I'll go slightly waterier in the centre so the black paper shows up in the bigger flowers. And this one's only half yellow, half white. So more white and more yellow on the flowers that you want to stand out. Less yellow and more water on the flowers that you want to sort of push back. always add and build the layers up. That's the beauty of these. If it all goes wrong, you just paint some grass over the top of them, and that's fine. It just looks more natural then, you see, and people will think you're really clever, and they won't realise that you've done it to cover up things. Some might need a couple of coats to work. A tiny bit of white, tiny bit.
Just to the bright yellow.
Yeah. The other yellow is the normal yellow with a bit of water to push it back. Then you can use neat yellow on its own for another layer with less water. Then a bit of white where you want it to really stand out. But be sparing with that, with the white, because otherwise everything will start to feel quite vibrant. So again, you might have to wait for certain ones to dry before you think, do I add more white? What do I need to add to make it push back or stand out? So it is just basically it's either yellow, white or water for the majority of these. Water. Which one?
It's like a statue, a stone sort of carving speaking about water, actual water.
No.
There's water.
No, I don't think I do.
Says how much TV I watch, doesn't it?
I do watch a lot of TV, or I used to watch. I don't watch any TV now. I watch Hollyoaks, that's it. That's my only telly.
Wow.
I don't know, my wife got me into Hollyoaks, and I still watch it now. I suppose I've kind of grown up watching them, and a lot of them are my age, so it's quite nice. I like rubbish TV.
Sorry, Barry, I'm way behind.
That's
So,
okay.
Lemon yellow.
No, cadmium yellow.
Right.
Nearly.
Okay, that was close. And white.
Well, depends. If you want it to stand out a lot, add the white. If you want it to be more subtle, add water. And if you're in between, just neat yellow. But it doesn't take very long to build up, which is really cool. What?
So I'm just picking it up.
Brian Blessed?
Yeah.
And once some of the flowers in, you'll be able to see if you need to brighten parts of the grass up again, or add any extra leaves.
I don't think I can do very much more.
Is it a masterpiece, Daniel?
Yeah, it's a masterpiece, very much.
It'd be brilliant.
It's a masterpiece, though, mate. Over.
I think the thing that's the most important thing today is the randomness, which is really hard to be random, because the brain wants to tidy everything up. Let that dry for a second, see what it looks like. it can be easy to overwork. So sometimes you're better off just having a look at it and seeing, have I just gone? Because you can just keep building up, and it doesn't. You need to retain some of the darks, ideally. You can always put some of them back in with the black if not. Or mix some black with the green, and then you'll get some darker tones if you need to pop some darks back in. I think watercolour pencils is this one next week. I think they're birds, but they look like leaves. But we probably won't put those on. So that's watercolour pencil class next week. Same time, same place. I don't actually think I can do any more to this, because I'll just keep building up layers and it won't actually add anything to it. But what I'll do is I'll just take the pins out so I can show you up close. It's difficult getting the solidness of the flowers. hard to get to know which of the petals are coming forward. You got two lighter ones that are kind of coming out,
Yeah.
and some darker ones. So you can add a bit more white to it, perhaps.
Right.
That's all right, isn't it?
What?
And white.
What?
I'm gonna close my. If I close my lid like that, then I know I won't touch it again. That's the theory behind it. You're still not 100%, are you?
Actually feeling a little off today.
Oh, yeah.
I had a bit of a headache for the last half an hour, maybe an hour.
Oh no.
There's something new flying around reception taking my
Oh.
colleagues out, but
There are a lot of bugs about.
it doesn't help that I work in a place where sick people go.
Well, no, that is the problem. When you work somewhere medical, generally, if people are poorly, you're going to catch it, aren't you? Because you can't really tell them not to come if they're not very well. I can say that to you lot. I can say, all right, if you're not well, don't come to class. But when you actually want to see a doctor, you kind of have to be ill, don't you?
I don't have to be ill. Have to be other things.
So you've got about 10 minutes. I don't want to rush you, but you have got about 10 minutes. What have I got down my trousers?
Do you have the stem?
You can. I mean, I couldn't see very many stems for some of those flowers. I look forward to seeing that, Rosemary. see, there are things you can do if you feel you've maybe gone a bit too, let's say, gung-ho, and you've got a lot of colour. There is, I can show you a little sneaky cheat. And charcoal would be better, but I haven't got any to hand. But if I use a bit of black pastel and rub it on my finger, I can then go into parts of the painting and mute them. So let's, you know, this whole top area here, if I want that to go back, just black pastel on my finger, rub it in, and it pushes it away. Because that way you're not adding anything moist or water based onto it, so it just softens it and pushes it back. And the beauty of that is, if you do too much of it, you can always rub it out with an eraser afterwards. But it does really help push things back if you need to. And that will give you lights and darks, and it'll put the contrast back in if the paint has just gone everywhere, which it can so easily do. Usually with a slightly dirty finger, but that's okay. You've been in an art lesson, it's alright. Daniel, do you want to see yours on the screen?
If I must.
You must. Thank you. Oh, I like that, Dan. What are you narring about? I don't know, I think it works. Got some good greens in there.
Did we use the brown?
No, I didn't use any brown in the end. I kind of the reds helped, and I think the brown might push things in the wrong direction. I hear tape peeling. That looks really low. Are you pleased with that?
I am, yes, thank you.
I mean, you say you've never used Gouache before. Did you art much at all, or not really?
I haven't worked in ages. I really want to get back into it.
See that on the tail? Looks like I've got a bit of tape on top. I won't push it.
My writing takes up all my time now.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? So lovely. That's really nice.
Oh yeah, I think it's lovely.
It's a magic camera. No, that's really lovely. You got some good greens in there as well. A good variety of green. Perfect. Oh, well done. Really nice. Pam, let me grab yours. That's lovely. Pleased.
Really painted it.
I like that.
Yeah, so come out, it's dancing all
Oh,
too.
it's really beautiful.
It's very vibrant, isn't it?
It is very
It looks
vibrant.
like a daffodil in the middle. That's really nice.
because you've kept quite a lot of your darks, I think that's you've got really strong contrast, so it's making them look more vibrant, you know. But I don't think that's a bad thing. You've got some good mixes of greens in there. No, I like it.
Prefer chalk.
Well, yeah, I mean this would be very interesting to do in pastels actually,
Yeah.
on black.
Yeah.
Would be really interesting. That is nice, Marley. There's a lot of layers in there.
Yeah, I'm so heavy-handed. I can't quite get the little delicate shapes.
It's tricky.
I always
Because
end up
it's
with.
getting the right amount of paint to water. Because if you have too much, if you have the right amount of water, sometimes it's quite insipid.
Yeah.
But if you have the right opacity of paint, then it's too thick.
Yeah.
It really is a tricky
really
thing.
good.
But you see, that's a lot of layers.
Yeah.
I think that's worked really well.
But yeah, I can't quite get the.
It will come. It will come.
It,
It's tricky, and as I say, the amount of water to paint is really hard to teach because it's impossible because it will depend on your brushes and your understanding of
yeah.
water. If it was like a cookery lesson, where I have 2 parts water to 1 part paint,
Yeah.
it would be brilliant, but it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Lovely.
I recently did a watercolour from costumes.
Oh yeah.
Lovely.
Nice. That is really good. What did you think of gouache?
It's really interesting, completely different.
It's very
It
different.
threw me off. As you can see in the board.
Well, it is different. I mean, if you've only done acrylics and oils,
Yeah.
so it's extremely different to both of those. You need to move anything out of the way. What's that? I hold that. Take off, don't you?
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
So I've given up on following with the chin.
Good. Use me as a guide. I'd always say I'm here to teach technique, not style. The style comes from you. It's nice. That's lovely. That is lovely.
Gosh, those leaves are beautiful.
You've got such variety in there. It's very different to oils. But you see, with gouache, you can play with it more, can't you? You can, and if you had your own gouache at home, you could fiddle with that again
Yeah.
in the morning when it's totally dry, or you can still reconstitute it. You can reblend it. You can do a lot with it. So, you know, you can come back to it in a day or a week, and it's not a problem. Gosh, it's 9:05. Where has today gone? Goes quick, doesn't it? Too quick. I know. I'd love to last them longer, but you know, I do have to go. Since I pay rent for a house, I do like to see it occasionally, even if it's just to sleep in. I think you've all done really well. That is really gorgeous. I can just imagine a little rabbit or a little hare poking through there. Really lovely. And Rosemary, I'm going to look at. I'm interested to see what you do when you get round to it. And next week, watercolours. No,
Pencil.
watercolour pencils next week, and then the week after is the bank holiday Monday, and I won't be here. So take care, have a good week, enjoy the weather, whatever the weather brings. I think we've got a good week, have we? We actually got summer this week, or it was that the other day. I can't work out. We had a day of summer, didn't we? Maybe. We could do something. Maybe September will be quite a nice month. I don't know. It's... well, never mind. Do you want to see that one on the screen? Not really. So, take care. Have a good week. See you soon. Bye. Bye, everybody.